am wearing this shirt because yes, I am in fact a nerd on a power trip. Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to day 11 of the 12 Days of Margaret. That's right, we only have one more day. If you are new to my channel, 12 Days of Margaret is just a thing that I start on my birthdays and I do for 12 days because my birthday happens to be real close to Christmas and it's where I put all of my end of the year content. Today we're going to be talking about my most disappointing / the worst books of 2021. Now I do want to say that for the most part, these books do not make me angry. They don't make me rage. They're not books I don't think anybody should read. For the most part, I am able to go, you know what, I think there's someone out here for this book. There are a couple on here that I question whether or not we should have had them published, but we'll get there. I will try to point out things that I think will work for other people, but they didn't work for me. I had high expectations and they were let down. We are going to start out with The Vision by Tom King, and I don't remember the artist, but you have the cover right here. I'm just gonna say The Vision, like the entire volume. I read it into 2 volumes, A Little Worse Than a Man, A Little Better Than Beast. So I have a pretty good track record with Tom King. He is one of my favorite Batman writers. He's not writing Batman, well, he is writing Batman, but he has been removed from the main title because he went on to do other things for DC. And I like the stories and the nuance that he puts in them. I really think that he has a good grasp of who Bruce is as a person, and so I really enjoy his takes on Batman and on Bruce. This, I went into being like, oh, this will be really exciting. Like, I haven't really read any Marvel, and I'm wanting to kind of get a little bit more know-how about what's going on in the Marvel universe since the last time I was really invested and reading from it, which is back in the early 2000s. So I was like, let's just go check out. Let's see what's going on. So I picked this up with really high expectations, and I think that's part of why it's on this list. I think if I had not had as high expectations from reading Batman, from reading Mr. Miracle, it would not be on this list, but I did. So maybe that's a me thing. Long story short, it is okay. Like, I think the first volume showed a lot of promise. The first half of the story showed a lot of promise, but I'm not sure how I feel about what happened in it and how things wrapped up. It's very complicated in a comic book kind of way because my feelings might change as I get to understand a little bit more about what is going on in the Marvel universe at this time and how it feeds into things that are going to be happening later on in the universe. A lot of comics, a lot of the time, you have stuff that feeds into stuff, and sometimes endings don't feel complete because they're going into another event. But I also read Captain America the Winter Soldier right around this time, and even though not all of the threads are wrapped up in Captain America Winter Soldier, I still felt like that was a more satisfying ending than we got with The Vision. So my friend, not the worst of the books. I was really intrigued. I really enjoyed Tom King's kind of thing he does, where he will give you parts of the story and kind of lead you along, and you've got to know the whole story for everything to make sense. But I just there were some things that I was just this was not the ideal reading experience. I would have liked to have not okay, I need it wasn't what I was wanting. First volume got 4 stars, second volume got 3 stars. It was okay. It was okay. The next book that we need to talk about was quite possibly my biggest disappointment of 2021, and that's saying something because I did still genuinely enjoy this book for the most part. There were just some things in the execution that I expected better from this author based on what I have read from her before. And that is Breakup by Lily Manon. If you don't know, Lily Manon is the pen name for Sandhya Manon, who did the When Dimple Met Rishi books. I love those books. I think she does such a good job with every single one of them. I really enjoy her fairy tale retelling series that she has been doing, and so I went into this with super high expectations for this book. And for the most part, there was a lot of the stuff that I enjoy in Sandhya Manon's writing in this book. However, there was just some stuff that kept, so there were 2 things. The beginning didn't work for me in this one, and the ending didn't work for me. The best part of this was the middle, where we kind of get past all of the, friction between the 2 main characters. This is about Annika Dev and Hudson. It's Hudson, right? Hudson. It's about Annika Dev, and she is kind of in this feud with this other tech startup CEO, Hudson. They had a one-night stand at some conference or something, and then he comes out with an app idea that she feels is very similar to her app idea, but evil, basically, is how she sees it. And so there's a lot of friction, and at the very beginning they're just ridiculously unprofessional, and that might have flown for me. It might have been okay, except it's very clear, even though we are only in Annika's head, it's very clear that he still kind of has a thing for her. Like, she is mad, she's trying to pretend like there's nothing there, she's overcompensating. But from his point, it's kind of clear that he's, like, into her still, and still wants to kind of figure out what went wrong after their week at this conference and why, like, all of this other stuff. And I just feel like it's weird to start a relationship when you have sabotaged each other to the point, especially that he ends up sabotaging her, because, like, her stuff was stupid and little, and then he ends up sabotaging her in a way that I was like, that's like could possibly affect her business. And then at the end, we had a thing that happened, and, like, I don't think it was really well executed. Like, if we had been in his head, it would have worked for me a lot better, but we are solely in Annika's head, so it feels like he does a complete 180. We really needed more time with him coming to this decision. Either we needed them, like, talking about it and coming to some sort of compromise, or we needed to be able to see in his head. But it felt really weird and rushed, and, like, I didn't believe him at the end of the book. I did think the middle of this thing was pretty darn stinking cute, because they just, like, they're really adorable. And I love them. And, like, he has really good motivations for why he's doing what he's doing. He also has some, like, I won't say trauma, but he has some, like, just resentments from the way things went when they were doing their thing at the conference, when they were together at that conference. And then you have her that she's very obviously overcompensating. There's a lot of layer. I loved her relationship with her father. I just, like, the beginning and the ending just didn't work. They rubbed the wrong way. So here we are. The next book on this list is The Last She by H.J. Nelson. I picked this up with high expectations. I don't know why. Actually, no, I picked this up with slight trepidation, but it said The Hunger Games meets The 100, and I was kind of intrigued by the premise. Basically, it is about, oh, I don't even remember her name, but it's about this girl that she is one of the last women on Earth, supposedly, from what she knows, because a virus has come through and it mostly only killed women. And she escaped because when this happened, her dad basically got the hell out of Dodge and they went to live in the woods because that was a thing he could do. Fast forward to where we start this novel. Her father has disappeared. He said go back home. She's trying to get back to their home, and she ends up getting kidnapped by this guy because he's like, you're the only girl that I have seen in, like, who knows how long, and you're gonna end up getting jumped. And he's like, I can't, like, not take you with me because there are people here who will, like, make you come, and we also are going to be better at protecting you. And, like, I understand, like, all of that. It was a pretty decent, what's the word, motivation for this character. However, there were just some flaws in this book. Number one, it was very much, like, men and women, the gender binary. It didn't take any other, like, considerations. It didn't give us a good reason for why this virus only affected women. I don't, like, we needed, for this to work, we needed that in the first volume, or we at least, because it's a trilogy, we needed that in the first book, or we at least needed some hint. The audience, the readers needed some, even if the characters don't know, the audience needed some idea of why this was going on. Also, she just kept using the word female in a way that, like, it felt like an incel would use. It was spelled correctly in the novel, but it felt like it was being spelled F-E-M-A-I-L, like you see some guys in the comments on YouTube doing. It was just weird. It rubbed me the wrong way. It got better towards the latter half of the book when the action started, but there were still just some things that happened, some tropes that happened, and, like, some of them were inevitable, but, like, one of them was not, and I was just like, could we not have just had, did we have to do this? Did we have to do things this way? Really weird, and I didn't like it. It was 2 stars. I am interested, it's higher up on this list because I am interested in actually reading the sequel. I would see if maybe the author got any better, although she wrote this in 2016, published it on Wattpad, and it is now coming out from an actual, like, it's coming out from Wattpad Books. Like, it's just, I don't know. If I'd written something in 2016 and I was publishing it officially in 2021 or 2022, I guess is when this one is coming out, I would have updated it to contain some of the conversations that have been had around gender and not just be fully like men do this and women do this and like it just on so many levels was annoying. The next book we need to talk about is Utamaki by Junji Ito. This one I am going to fully recognize that maybe it was not for me. There are probably people out there who are better versed in horror that may enjoy it, may like it. I was coming at it more from the mystery thriller side of things, and there were no satisfactory explanations, at least. Like, I was waiting for some explanation about why this spiral curse was happening in this town. I was waiting for some idea of what was going on. I was waiting for some sort of resolution, for an ending that wasn't like sad and depressing, and that is not what we got in this. I think the biggest thing is like there was no explanation and I hated the ending. There also was a lot that like the beginning, I thought he did a really good job of tying everything into spirals in some way, and then we got to some of the later stuff and I was like, what does this have to do with the spiral? How are spirals making this happen? Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't a weird or odd thing to happen. It wasn't necessarily that I was, like, mad about it. But, like, we got to the end, and there was no, like, explanation how spirals connected to some of this other stuff. And I just was like, what am I missing? What am I missing? I'd heard really good things about it, and it was super creepy, and the art style was really, really detailed, and I thought that it worked really well for the story that Ito is telling. But again, like, there were just like things in the writing that I was like, why did we do it this way? And why did you make me read this? Like, it felt like he started out with a really strong idea of what he was doing and then kind of lost the thread and then just needed to end the manga. All right, next we need to talk about A Taste of Sage by Yafa S. Santos. This is about two people. We've got one lady that is trying to have, like, she's just recently closed her restaurant, which was in a Dominican fusion restaurant, I think. Yeah, it was a Dominican fusion restaurant. She was really trying to, like, she was really trying to be inventive with food and bring her cuisine, the Dominican cuisine that she had been raised with, and kind of use it to put twists on some of the more classic staples as far as, like, fine dining goes. I'm using air quotes because, like, fine dining is subjective and elitist. This main character, Lumi, ends up getting hired at this guy named Julian's restaurant, and for the most part, like, the romance was okay. It wasn't anything like spectacular, but it wasn't anything disappointing. There was a key plot point that I didn't like how she handled it, and then a few other things as far as sex goes in this thing, and I guess I'll start with that. Like, the first sex scene between them was really weird, and like, we really got into the detail about her taking her clothes off, and then he was just magically naked. There was no discussion of, like, birth control, condoms, any kind of contraceptive. Like, they just were in a kitchen doing sex things, which is unsanitary. Like, not even the personal kitchen, like the kitchen of the restaurant he owns. And then, like, she ends up getting injured pretty badly in this book towards the end, and then they have sex. And, like, I have some experience with the particularly type of healing process that she would be having to go through, and I'm just, like, cringing at the idea that, like, this was even suggested by him. This is not cute. This is not sexy. I had a feeling that it was going to happen, but I was hoping that it would be something that she initiated. I think I would have been more okay with this scene if she had, but, like, he's the one that suggests it, and she's just like, oh, okay, let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just like, why? And then the main, like the main thing that really bugged me, and it's a key plot point, she has what the author calls synesthesia. But the synesthesia that she has is that she can tell the emotions people had when they were cooking food. And I'm sitting here going, that is not synesthesia, that's magic. It really just bugged me. I even double checked the definition of synesthesia while I was reading this book, and I was like, this is not what synesthesia is. So again, if she had decided that she's like, okay, this is going to be magical realism, and had done something like that, it would have worked. But she specifically gave it this medical term and talked about it like it was this like neurodivergent thing that happens to people. I'm not entirely sure if synesthesia is a neurodivergence, but I'm assuming it is something different about your brain based on what I know about it, the little I know. It was weird, and it just annoyed me because I'm like, there are actual people who are out there that are going to pick this up thinking that it's going to be representation for them, and they're going to get into it and go like, you've made this into a joke. It's real, like, I mean, it just, the way it affects the plot is really dumb. I would have liked this better if we hadn't had that element at all. I think that we had enough going on with her dreams of having her own restaurant, with her dreams of, you know, experimenting with cuisine and trying to find other things to do with it, ways to mix, like, the more, like, classical ideas of cooking with the Dominican culture that she grew up with. I think there was so much we could have done, and we didn't need that. It wasn't necessary, and it just made the book feel really ridiculous. I really don't want to hold up this next book, but I will probably actually put it behind me. But the next thing we need to talk about is The Once and Future Witches by Alexi Harrow. By the way, I gave this and the last 2 books 2 stars. Let's see. Wait, no, the last 3 books 2 stars. Vision and Makeup Breakup both got 3 stars. Everything else has gotten 2 stars or less. We do have a 1 star on this list for once. This is a historical retelling of Salem, Massachusetts, and in this version, the old Salem has been burnt down to get rid of witching, and we have these characters that are magical, and they are trying to bring witching back. I have a couple of issues with this. I did think that it had really nice prose. I really liked the relationship between the sisters. There were parts of this that I really enjoyed, but the things that bothered me, the things that I thought were wrong with it, just really, I couldn't get past them. I'm sorry. Like, I really wanted to like this book. I really had high hopes for this book, and she just did some stuff. So we're gonna start with the less egregious of the sins of this book. The first thing is that so witching is meant to be an allegory for feminism and for women's power, and I really liked some of the parallels that were there. But what ended up being the main push for witching, the character that was doing, like, trying to really spearhead this and make things happen, she's very angry, she's 19, and I understand, like, why she had the motivations and why she was trying to do what she was trying to do, why she had such a, like, let's burn it all down mentality. However, we didn't have any balance for that. It didn't feel like. It felt like everyone was just kind of on board with this idea of bringing witching back and causing chaos while trying to do that. Like, there is so much disruption that is going on in this. And, like, when you look at actual instances of civil disobedience, it is always motivated by trying to get the best for society. There is always a clearly stated goal as to why people are doing this, whether it is because you want to get votes for women, or which is what this would be kind of in this, or you want to be able to just be able to walk into a restaurant and not have them decide they don't want to serve you because you're black. Like there are so many allegories in here, and I just was very white feministy, because all she was like, it was just about power for the sake of power, and no kind of examination of what you were going to do with that power to make people's lives better. Why is this appealing? Like, I needed more of that. I needed more from this story for that to work for me, and we didn't get it. And then the other thing that, really, like, the thing that really, really bothered me is she is very casual in her use of certain terms for people of color. I mean, I should have known when in the epilogue, she used the word savage to describe indigenous and African magics. And yes, I know it was contradicted like a sentence later, but for reasons, I feel like, and I've said this before, but I feel like when you are a white author and you are writing about people of color, it is your job to understand the words that have been used to describe the people you were talking about, whether it's an indigenous person, a black person, someone of East Asian descent, someone of South Asian descent, someone from Latin America. You have a job, you have a duty as a white author to understand what terms were used by white people and had violence behind them. There is a reason you should not use the word savage to refer to an indigenous or an African person. Like, there is a reason you should not do that, and that is because of the violence behind that word. Like, I'm not comfortable using that word in most cases because I know the connotations behind that word. I'm not comfortable using it in reference to people in general because, again, I know the connotations and the parallels that have been used with that word. There was that. And then we get further into the book, and she uses the word colored to refer to black people. And she doesn't, it's not something that is used in dialogue because it's a historical fiction. There are going to be people that use that word. There are going to be, there are going to be organizations that use that word. However, in the narration, she uses it so casually that it didn't sit right with me. It made the reading experience very uncomfortable for me. And that was me as a white person knowing the history of that word and knowing that the author who was using it was white. Black and African American were terms that were used at that time. It's not like there were no other terms that she could have used in reference. She also ended up taking this woman's storyline, basically, and the white main character, one of the white main characters, takes over everything she's doing. She just basically drops a lot of what she's doing to help this white main character, and no progress really is made on her goals. So there's that. That's a whole other conversation that can be had, especially since the woman who wrote this should have known better, because she is apparently, if you read the back of the book, she's an African American studies person. Like, that's her thing. If you look into it, she was an academic, and that was what she studied. So I understand why she thinks that she can kind of speak on these things, but that doesn't give her permission. It doesn't make using the terminology that she's used in this book a good idea. I think she did a much better job in this book than at staying in her lane than she did in 10,000 Doors of January, but still just disappointing. And the final book that we're going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about it for long because I really don't think that it deserves a lot of my time, but the most disappointing, the worst book that I have read in 2021 is The Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney. Oh, we're going to take this down because we don't need that there. This, guys, I don't understand the point of this book. I don't get it. Greg is a terrible character at the beginning. He is a terrible character at the end. And I understand that this is a part of a series, but it didn't feel like there was any lesson in here. It just felt like he was awful for the sake of being awful, for the sake of being a jerk, and there was no point to it. Like, why would I give this to my kid? This is going to make them think that this behavior is okay. Like, I would not recommend this if you have a middle grade student, because he's just a jerk. He's very snotty towards girls. I won't say he's a misogynist because he's 12. He doesn't know any better. But he's snotty towards girls. He's terrible to his best friend. He's awful to his little brother, which I get it. Little brothers can be really annoying. I understand. I got you, kid. I get it. I read this because it was on my physical TBR, but I was fed up with this pretty much from the get-go, from the point where he said girls' journals are a girly thing. Diaries are a girly thing, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna hate this kid so much, but I still read it because it was a pretty simple book. He is mean and awful and nasty to everyone, and I don't like it. I didn't like it. It was a waste of my time. What was the point of me reading this book? Basically, why would you have someone pick up? Why would you have a kid pick it up? I've read stuff that is in this vein, and what is it? There's one that was with American Girl. Her name is Amelia, and it's a composition notebook, and even in they're that thick. Even in those, there was a lesson in them, and there was none here. Goodbye. I'm getting rid of it. So those are my least favorite books of the year. If you would like to let me know what your least favorite book of the year is, go ahead and hit up the comments. Let me know. Talk to me about it. If you are not feeling chatty but you still want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, give me the like grossed out face emoji, the vomit face emoji, to let me know how that you watched to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to go ahead and check out some of the videos that are over here. My best of 2021 will be coming out tomorrow, so if you are new here, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss that. That is it for now, my friends. A happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!